Hey there. Over the last weekend, we tried to get set up with the mobile banking app. A banking app. We tried to do some part of it on the mobile app, and it was quite an experience, right? I don't want to name the name of the bank. I'll say that it should suffice to say that it's a bank based out of Southeast Asia. All that we tried to do was change phone numbers, as simple as that, right? And it took us several days, numerous phone calls, and a lot of debugging on our side, even to get to the bottom of the problem. Long story short, it is a classic example of a very poorly designed both user interface, but more so than the user interface, the user experience. It was very highly secure, but secure to the point that it's almost useless. You can't even use it. I was trying to work with people who don't necessarily work in software development. It was even more unintuitive to them, because if you work in the industry, at least you have an idea what kind of how silly the implementation could possibly have been. So you try to find solutions to work around that. But if you don't do that, it's much harder, right? So here was the problem. If you have to change your phone number from A to B, from one app to the other, all that you should have had to do is install the app on your new device that has a new phone number, and then probably I can tell you how exactly it should have worked. But whatever that should have is, we'll just get to it in a second. But I'll talk about what happened. On the contrary, I can't even regurgitate what exactly happened, because we had to try many things in vicious circles to get that working. But one of the things we had to do was, you have to after you install the app, you don't see certain options on the app in the logged out public mode till you make some other changes for those options to show up on your device, which takes a lot of iterations. Once that shows up, there is an OTP code, and we would have probably sent like 150 or 200 OTPs during the process of getting this set up. It sends an OTP code to the old device, and then you have to be logged in on the web. But to log into the web app to make these changes, you can't make these phone number changes on your mobile devices, on the mobile app. So you have to go to the web app, but you can't log into the web app without being able to set these things up on mobile. So it's kind of a chicken and egg story. So you have to go through a sequence of steps, which there's like 4 pages of documentation, which tells you that it clearly has not been done correctly, right? If it takes 4 pages of documentation to actually tell you how to simply switch numbers from one phone to the other. And then after you go to the web and change the phone number, after going through a sequence of steps, you would then have to install the app on there's a sequence. You then install the app on your new device, and you actually have to pick the correct version of the app to install that is region based as well. So if you install an app that's supposed to work in a certain set of countries, it doesn't work on the others. It's not a singular app on the App or Play Store. In our case, we were just using it on the App Store. So you have to download the correct region app that's for the correct region, even though every app shows up obviously when you go search through the App Store. And then those other options start showing up. I know if what I explained to you in the last 2 minutes is extremely confusing, at least you get the idea, because that's exactly how the experience was when we actually went through the process. But now let's talk about what it could have been, right? You want to change your access from one device to the other. So say you go to the web. You try to log in, and it says it's going to send an OTP code to your existing device. So it sends you a six-digit number. Let's say it's 12345 then you could actually have a page on the web that asks you to key in that number, which would tell you that you are the person who has access to that old device. After you do that, it can then ask you for the new phone number, and it should send an OTP to that new device. And if it did that, it also means, if I put my neighbor's phone number, I don't have access to that device, so I wouldn't know what the OTP code is that was sent to that new device. So clearly that also confirms the fact that I have access to that new device as well. It sends me an OTP, and then I go to the web, and then I key in the OTP, and then things should work. And if they wanted it to be even more secure, you could probably have a 24-hour turnaround time, after which that switch happens, right? I may have missed 1 or 2 things here, but maybe not. But that should have just worked. That would work just fine for the most part. But in this case, after we went through the whole process, we had to wait like a whole 24 hours for one part of it to be activated. After the 24 hours, it sends you a message, a notification, and it gives you 3 minutes within which you have to click on that notification for you to confirm something else, at which point it'll send one more OTP code. But imagine waiting a day. It is anywhere within the 24 hours. Waiting a day for you to get that message, and then you have only 3 minutes to click that message. I mean, is the expectation that you sit there all night awake waiting for that message to come? I mean, it's not coming from like Scarlett Johansson, right? For you to wait all night. So it's ridiculous. Ultimately, we got it set up, but it begs the question, with all the good practices, UX and UI, and a million discussions and threads online, why do these apps, why does software get built so poorly? I mean, there's many reasons, right? It's not easy to tell. I have no idea who built this, when they built it, or what happened. But I think one part of the problem could be, as an engineer, as a dev team, you want to question the requirements that are sent to you, right? Whether it's UI or UX. If you just wear this hat like, hey, I'm a developer or an architect, I'm just going to implement what's thrown at me, I don't think you're doing any favor to yourself, to your team, to your product team, or to your company. So I think it works on both sides. It's the same thing. If engineering tells product that, hey, I can't do this because it's very difficult to do, I think product should actually question that judgment. Right? They should ask the engineering team to explain why something is difficult. Can you explain? Can you be more quantitative? Give some examples, go through the whole cycle. Sometimes people take the other party's word for it. You want to trust people, but you also are better off being skeptical, right? So I think part of the problem is that the engineering team, maybe in this case, just implemented what was thrown at them. I don't know. And that doesn't bode well for user experience. So, well, that's my thought anyways. This is a very simple thing, switching apps, phone numbers from one to the other. It should certainly not take a week, numerous phone calls, a lot of attempts, hundreds of OTP codes before it can actually be done. I hope that made some sense. And if you want to check out an app that actually doesn't have all of these problems, even if it happens to be in a different domain and a space, I ran into one recently. It's called snowpal.com. You should definitely check it out and manage your projects better. Thanks, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.